Agent Z-Man here, reporting from home base to discuss New York Toy Fair 2026. Now, it won't be all the reveals that happen at Toy Fair, but rather the highlights that I thought were quite intriguing and could lead into further things. Now, I will post all the links on the description below. Now, without further ado, let's crack this case. Now, the first reveal that was quite a highlight for me was the Trick or Treat Studios Absolute Edition The Crow. Now, this is the comic version of Eric. As you can see, it's not Brandon Lee, but it's very, detailed. I don't know what the articulation is going to look like, but it's got a good amount of accessories, like another interchangeable head, a crow, Gabriel the cat, and, a few hand accessories, as well as swivel arms, which I thought was quite cool because you can either have him in the trench coat look or the more shirtless look. And we don't know what the price is, but we do know the scale, which is 6.75 inches. So it'll be like kind of like a Marvel Legends esque scale. So it will fit in right for the 1/12 scale collection. But I thought this was quite interesting. And, who knows if that means we could get more um, indie comic characters. Now, the next highlight would be the Playmate Toys Power Rangers X Godzilla line. Now, here we've got a Godzilla type of vinyl figure with the Dragon Zord sort of armor. So, if you wanted that to scale with the Power Rangers, there you go, there's that. But really, the highlight are the actual Rangers, because we didn't even know if we were getting the entire lineup or it was just going to be the three figures that were sort of semi-revealed slash semi-leaked. But at least now we know we're getting a green, red, blue, yellow, purple, and black Ranger. Obviously, in sort of like representation of the Mighty Morphin lineup, sans White Ranger, but that's not, that's the second team. But at least we can see from this image that we've got the entire lineup. They look pretty cool, the sort of paint applications are not that great, but at least, I think it's a good sort of representation of these action figures. And, I think the packaging is very interesting. Each figure comes with the coin, like in homage of the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger figures, and it comes with weapons, accessories, and whatnot. Don't know what the price is going to be on this, but they look really cool, and I'd love to see if they do kaiju sort of mashups of the villains, like maybe like a Goldar with Ghidorah, or a, I don't know, a Zed with Mechagodzilla, something like that. But I thought these are a good step, and I'll probably be picking them up. Now, the next reveal was from the Marvel Legends team, and this was the Iron Spider Aaron Davis figure. Now, this is clearly a reuse of the Iron Spider figure that was released ages ago as a single release, kind of similar to this, but I think this is a really good offering and quite unique sort of character to choose, as you can actually, I think you could use the Aaron Davis head and put that on the Prowler, either the comic one. I think the comic one makes more sense, but I think it's a really good head sculpt. As you can see, the figure is quite good. It's very posable, and you've got the Waldos on the back, so I think that's an excellent offering. It only comes with the whip hands and the fists, but if you've got a symbiote Spider-Man figure, I think you can, fudge, wall crawling hands, but I don't really think you need that for this release. But the next reveal was the Incredible Hulk, Professor Hulk offering. Now, this is obviously in line with their Hulk-centered figures. So this is kind of like, we've been wanting this Professor Hulk for some time, and we got a kind of like teaser of the gun, which we all thought, yep, it's Professor Hulk. But to actually see it, it's quite good, and especially in the packaging. And it does come with its bunny slippers. So, but luckily, it's not you know glued to the feet or permanently attached. You can take it off, so don't worry about that. It also comes with the bandoliers that are removable, so that's pretty cool. And it comes with two heads, one smiling and one angry, and some glasses. So that's pretty cool on a big Hulk body. Some glasses which you can actually use maybe on other figures that are like more of the bigger figures, but it's great to see that this is I think pinless. It's still on that older-ish Hulk body, but at least they have sculpted a new kind of like end piece where the legs are, so it's not tattered, because that design of Professor Hulk didn't have the tattered legs. But I honestly am blown away by this reveal. I really want it for the Hulk collection, but I could see future uses of this kind of head style, maybe for a Gamerverse Hulk, maybe, but I think this is definitely a solid must if you love Professor Hulk. If you love just Hulk in general, this is a good offering, and definitely not um, maximum style, but hey, I think this is a lot better. Now moving on to McFarlane Toys. The thing that really took my eye was this, the Constructor Figures series. So it seems like McFarlane is going well in deep with the blind bag slash blind box kind of phase that this everyone is into right now. You got Labubu's. Let's not get any more curses on Labubu. If you don't know, watch the recap. Um, but in all seriousness, this is kind of like, is McFarlane picking up the kind of like mini mate slash minifigure sort of scale, as this is a clear kind of like similar look, but not quite the same as minifigure like mini mates. But generally, you got a lot of Spawn variations, but the three figures that kind of like stick out to me are the Curse, not to be mistaken by the Curse of the Spawn. No, but this is one of his characters that he had in the Spawn universe, and it seems like we've only got like one other figure. I say figure, but it was a small collectible that came with a comic. That he did first with the DC stuff, and then he started with his own Spawn comics. But it's pretty cool to see that we getting that character. Hopefully, we get a actual you know proper articulated figure of the Curse, either this look or his first appearance kind of look. But the other one that I saw was the Al Simmons sort of figure that he's done, and we don't have an Al Simmons like from before he became Spawn action figure in his main line. But to see this, it's like, oh, maybe potentially, but obviously we can't reuse this to make an Al Simmons normal figure. But it's pretty cool that we can get that in this sort of like lineup. And then, of course, we do have over there is Overt Kill. Now, that's a pretty cool character. And, it's nice that we're getting breaks from the tons of Spawn that we can see that are being offered for this series. And, I might pick this up just out of curiosity to see, you know, how well they are. But let's see what the price is going to be, because if it's too much, it's like, yikes, these are collectible, like mini collectibles. They're not supposed to be super overpriced. But anyway, I think this is definitely intriguing, but weird that McFarlane's decided to go into the mini scale slash blind box sort of phase that everyone is like, every kind of like pop mart company is doing. I wonder if this is actually going to be a pop mart, but I doubt that. But yeah, this looks interesting. For more McFarlane, we have Mortal Kombat Classic. Now, this is obviously the Mortal Kombat line that's based on the Mortal Kombat 2 video game. And the reveals from here are Jade, Noob Saibot, Ermac, Johnny Cage, a frosted Sub-Zero, and a invisible reptile. Now, I say this as like, you know, to give credit to McFarlane. We finally get all the three female ninjas, as they were referred back in the day. But, Jade here was actually a secret character in Mortal Kombat 2. So it's actually quite cool that we're getting secret characters. But, in reality, this is just a clear, reuse of the katana body as well as her accessories, but with now like a bronze tint, which it's okay, but I wish we got a staff with Jade as, you know, later iterations of Jade. She is known for her staff accessory slash weapon. But, I think this is a great opportunity to complete all the female ninjas. Storm Collectibles didn't even give us any of the female ninjas. They showed us, but it was never meant to be. But hey, at least we're completing it here. And then we have Noob Saibot, which obviously is just another redeco, but appreciated. I mean, we are getting the ninjas, and it looks like we're almost completing the entire ninja lineup. But then this release or reveal of Ermac confuses me because Ermac was never in Mortal Kombat 2. There was some sort of like, kind of like Aero Macro kind of Easter egg that everyone thought was another ninja, and they were like, oh yeah, the ninja was red. And it was kind of like that kind of like hype slash fake news kind of thing in Mortal Kombat 2 and also Mortal Kombat 1. But eventually Ermac made his debut in Mortal Kombat 3. However, it just confuses me that, I mean, hey, it's great to get Ermac and more ninjas in this wave or line, but I think there definitely was another character that we should have gotten instead of Ermac. But hey, I think McFarlane, from this lineup, I think we're gonna get that other ninja, which is Smoke, because he was the other secret character along with Noob Saibot. And if you know Noob and Smoke, they're always a team in the 3D era, slash the old time before the reboot of Mortal Kombat. But it's great to see Ermac. Again, this is the single carded figures, so they don't come with many accessories. I think Scorpion out of the ninjas is the only one who comes with like an additional accessory. Otherwise, they come with the fist and the open hand, like sort of options. But this reveal of Johnny Cage was surprising. We haven't had a Johnny Cage figure since Mortal Kombat 11's offering from McFarlane, which that figure was very rare and very hard to find. And I think, this is a great release, as we can get a Johnny Cage for our Mortal Kombat collection, especially if you're collecting this classic line, as I am. And the weird thing is that he's definitely reused that Mortal Kombat 11 head for Johnny Cage, but I think that's fine. I do hope we get a like 2-pack release, because as you can see, like the 2-packs are where you get multiple accessories, the effects. So I hope we get a 2-pack version of Johnny Cage with a sort of green effect, like his like energy ball kind of style of projectile. But yeah, this is a good release, and it definitely has me thinking of, if he goes fully into this line, who could we get from Mortal Kombat 2 that's still missing from this lineup? Well, that's a video idea for later. Let's keep that in the log, And you can see these are the 2-packs. So clearly this ice frosted Sub-Zero will be part of a 2-pack. I don't think it's going to be a single card or single release. So I wonder if it's going to come with as I mentioned, maybe a Johnny Cage variant, either like a red version, because there is that kind of like other color variant. These two packs are just mainly for the recolor as well as more accessories. So I wonder who the Sub Zero will come with. I don't know. I don't think it would be a good idea to give like another Melina, or because like Melina hasn't been released in a single version. So I wish she was, but hey, let's see who he comes with. And then the other variant that we probably can guess this is for a two pack is Invisible Reptile. You can tell it's Reptile just because of the sort of stance he has, but it'd be like a surprise if this is Smoke, and then I'm completely wrong. But I'd like to see what this comes with. If this is a single box release, okay, but I mean, I don't think a lot of people would want that. They definitely do it where they give you a second figure that's more, oh, this is really cool. So I wonder who he'll be packed with. But yeah, definitely some interesting reveals for Mortal Kombat Classic, and I definitely hope this line continues on, and maybe we get Mortal Kombat 3 figures. Who knows? Who knows? Now, this was an interesting reveal, as we thought only Boss Fight Studios had the license for Hellboy, but that's not the case. As you can see, it's Hellboy. He looks quite good, very um, of the style of very comic book style. But so he comes with this trench coat. Clearly, I think the cuffs might be, maybe they have wires. I don't know. Like, hopefully it can like stay in place. But as you can see, he comes with a gun. We don't know what else it comes with, but we do have an idea that maybe this other version of Hellboy here will be a variant, and it's more of the fully horned Hellboy with his fire crown. It doesn't look like a crown there, but usually it's like a fire crown sort of accessory. But this was an interesting and surprising reveal from McFarlane that he's got the Hellboy license. So let's see if we get other characters or it's just exclusively Hellboy. Now the last the last for McFarlane's reveals, because I know this has been very McFarlane heavy, but the one that really took my attention was this Superman Returns Brandon Routh Superman. Now it looks really good. It's clearly a reuse in some parts of the Christopher Reeves Superman figure, but it doesn't come with many hand accessories, so it's definitely like weird that we're just getting him as this. So he's not going to be able to do many like flight poses unless you just want him with like the fists flying, like kind of like poses. But I think this is a good um release. We don't have many Superman Return figures. I think it's just from when that movie came out and some one offs. But hey, this is pretty cool that we're getting a Superman Returns figure. Although, please don't do a Lex Luthor. If you know, you know. But anyway, this looks pretty good. Hopefully, the cape is wired. I think from shots it looks like it's wired. But um, the face sculpt kind of resembles Brandon Routh Superman, but and the S has definitely been enlarged for this figure, because in the main suit it's very small, like the logo itself is smaller, but I don't mind that. I think this is fine. But I wish it came with more hands, plenty of hands, man. Come on, this is like a no-brainer. But hey, this is a good last reveal from McFarlane. I know there were other, like the Superpowers line, but I don't collect that personally, so this is, it's not a bad offering, but it could be better. Now we do have a closer look at the Mattel DC Core line, which is more of their kid line for action figures. And to be honest, they look really good. I mean, you've got this armored Batman that has like a kind of like peekaboo helmet sort of situation. The Superman looks amazing. It's a classic Superman. What more do you want? And has a cloth cape, but it's not like wired, so don't think, oh, it should be wired. This is the kids line, but still, for a kids line, really cool. And as you can see, it comes with some armor and, some sort of like metal piece, which is cool for like, you can use for like for kids, they'll just use it as an accessory, but for, photography, you could use it for anything. So that's pretty appreciated. You have the blue sort of like modern look of Batman, which looks amazing. You got the batarangs. Although you can see, I don't know if this is just because this is their like prototype version of the figure, like, clearly just for use of like showcasing, like promotional use. But you can see there's like yellow sort of hinges, or like the clear like articulation point is yellow, which looks weird, but hey, this is the kids line, so it's fine. It's fine. It still looks good, and it looks like it can pose really good with like sort of like wrist articulation, you know, um, kind of like swivel on the legs, which is pretty cool. Then, as you can see, here's the Robin, which I'm like the most excited for because it looks like a Tim Drake figure, and I collect all Tim Drake figures, so this is a must. Although I've looked at this design and it looks closely more like the world's finest Dick Grayson Robin costume. The current World Finest comics where it's sort of like a you know a tale of Batman and Superman when they were younger. So it's like you have Dick Grayson as Robin, and he adopted the pants look that Tim Drake popularized. So there's that, but it's definitely Tim Drake because it's the Robin R. It's like the clear indicator. But so I'll get it either way. If it's not Tim Drake, I'll just make it Tim Drake. But this action figure, a lot of people were like, "Oh, great, we're getting a Jokerized Batman already. No Wonder Woman." Look, this is just what they've revealed right now. We're probably gonna get a Wonder Woman soon, so don't fret. And secondly, although Jokerized is kind of right, this is more of the Batman Who Laughs look that he had before he donned the whole, his more iconic look with the metal sort of frame and the more leathery look. This is what he wore for a bit. I know McFarlane did a figure of this, so that's how I know. And also from comic panels where it's like a purple suit with like sort of like stitching around. So you can see that here. But what's cool about this figure is that it seems to come with either the figure comes with this, or maybe each figure comes with this, but replaceable faceplates? This is pretty cool. I mean, you can tell it's a faceplate for definitely Robin and Flash because it's kind of like sort of like a half cut off, but the Batman for the blue suited Batman, that looks more like a head. I could be proven wrong, and these are actual just fully faceplates that you can attach to the figure. Although the Robin is going to look more like, it's going to look weird just because it's just the white faceplate of, the Joker eyes kind of look. And he's still going to have like his flesh tone arms. But I think this is a really cool idea. And like, if this line has faceplate options, that means we're going to get faceplates for the collector line. I mean, I'm assuming, but looks pretty cool. Joker looks phenomenal. I was kind of like a bit worried if it was going to be a more bulkier Joker look, but thankfully it's a nice, slender, suited, traditional Joker, and the chattering teeth accessory weapon, that's fun. This is supposed to be fun, so I'm definitely like, this line is really interesting for me. I'll definitely pick up a few and see how they work. And I think one of the things of Mattel getting the license is that I think the kid line can work well with the more adult collectible line. I mean, like, in terms of scale, most likely, but also, and we've got John Stewart, great. Like the accessories as well. That was the main kind of like caveat. Like, oh, we can possibly use these accessories for those adult figures. So definitely, love that we're getting green construct weapons, and you know, the images of the figures in the packaging like show that they come in a weapons rack, kind of like how the Playmates TMNT figures they come with a weapon pack, weapon rack more. But it's definitely intriguing that they're doing that. I know Spin Masters for their Ninja Force line that they recently did that was more of like a 6-inch type of scale rather than their small 3.75 scale. But they came with a weapons rack, so I'm guessing that like Mattel was like, hey, let's just do a weapons rack. It'd be cool, and I think maybe that's like a gimmick, maybe. And we've got the Flash, who comes with some little Speed Force effects. I hope he comes with more, honestly, and I wish he came with more like speed hands. Him running. It's kind of like how the Marvel Legends Quicksilver doesn't come with running hands, but he comes with like this running hand, similar to this. But obviously, this is more kid orientated, so you got to like have that remembering of that this is the kid line, not the adult line. So it won't come with like multiple hands, but at least we're getting a good amount of stuff. And this, like you can see, we're getting a variant of Superman. This is more of his new 52 look, which I like that there's sculpting in the suit rather than it just being a plain body with like you know deco of this, like the design of the new 50 suit. Really cool, sort of like shackles. Obviously it's kryptonite shackles, so maybe you could use that for the collectible Superman, the adult collectible version of Superman. So definitely some really cool accessories that are coming with these kid line. So that's pretty cool. Uh, More armor type Batman that I mentioned with the kind of like pop out helmet. Pretty cool. It looks like it can pose, and it's got like I think ankle joints. So that's intriguing. Now you obviously have the Titan figures that you know that are always there at the like for kid lines. They always do this kind of like upscaled version. It's more like it's a kid's toy, so it's like okay, of course they're gonna do that. Still, sculpt looks cool. I appreciate that. The Batman. It's a Batman. You're gonna get him. You're gonna get so many Batmen. So don't think it's just a McFarlane thing. We always get tons of Batman. Now this was the kind of like thing that piqued my interest was the Batmobile. Now obviously it's very gimmicky. You got these wheels, you got the like pop out guns and all sorts. It's supposed to be gimmicky, but at least a Batman can fit in there. That's pretty cool. But I think the more interesting thing about this reveal or release, yeah, you get a black suit variant Batman. Eh, you know, you can take it or leave it. But for me, the interesting thing would be the Robin that comes with it. Clearly, a Tim Drake again, but this Robin cycle has the feature to actually go into the Batmobile. Like you can combine it into the Batmobile, so you can actually have Robin and Batman in the Batmobile. Although it looks like Robin's just out in the open, like kind of thing. Whereas Batman's just there, chilling, covered, protected. So Robin's kind of being used as the human shield. But I really like this kind of like gimmick of combining two vehicles to make the full vehicle look. And you don't even need the cycle if you didn't want it, and you could just have a more like slimline look of the Batmobile. But I think this is where Mattel, kind of like excels at the kind of like playset sort of type style, with um the Mattel Masters of the Universe line. Brain fog, but um, they do great vehicles, and I think this is a great indicator of how the vehicles are gonna look and how they could probably like um, play with. Like, I think that's the main thing. It's very toyetic, but I think the play features can, and just the aesthetic can fit in the line if you just give like a little bit of, some DIY painting skills, and spruce it up into a collector's looking Batmobile. I mean, it's not far from looking like a just a normal Batmobile. Obviously, just recolor the gimmicky colors of like the yellow and the red and that stuff, and then you'll be fine. But yeah, definitely a highlight for me. And I'm very intrigued at this line and what the adult line could look like. So I'm all in. Well, that's all, folks. Thank you so much for watching this report on New York Toy Fair. Hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what was your favorite reveal. And if I didn't discuss it, just let me know. You can always find me here on Zman 12 Bat, but also you can catch me on the recap on Encounter Culture's YouTube channel. So yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day, everyone.